The ship wherein Theseus and the youth of Athens returned from Crete had 30 oars and was preserved by the Athenians, for they took away the old planks as they decayed, putting in new and stronger timber in their places, insomuch that this ship became a standing example among the philosophers for the logical question of things that grow, one side holding that the ship remained the same, and the other contending that it was not the same.
My gaming group was coming to the end of a campaign, and we were pitching around adventure possibilities. When my sister said she could run Out of the Abyss, I said, "No, Jess already ran that one." That's when Jess said, "Well, I didn't really run it." What? I said that I definitely remember a Duragar named Bupido, a Mycadid named Stool, and an underground city named Slubladop. So unless I was having a 6-month-long fever dream, I'm pretty sure you did. She said that since we started from homebrew and she changed a lot of things, we didn't really play Out of the Abyss. Huh. That got me thinking. What does it really mean to run a module? If you add too much, or change too much, or take too much away, are you still playing the adventure? The Ship of Theseus is a thought experiment that gets us to ask whether an object that has had all of its components replaced remains the same object. I think about this paradox a lot when running published modules. As players and DMs, creativity is in our membrane. We're here because we want to create something that doesn't exist yet. If we weren't, we'd all just be playing chess. It's in our blood to change things to fit our version of the ideal narrative. Leaving that aside, player choices can quickly send the adventuring train off the rails, leaving you to furiously lay down track, just barely keeping ahead of the party. In my experience, that's an inevitable outcome of a role-playing game. And honestly, why I keep playing them. I love the feeling of blazing new ground that's never been trod in an adventure. Where the party goes when they leave the beaten track, that's my world, and they best come correct. The important question to ask here is, what are the promises the module is making to you and your gaming group? What is the experience your players are expecting to have? If I pitched Curse of Strahd to my players, the game I run better have a sandbox world with gothic horror and a final showdown with a vampire in a spooky castle. But if I've got all that, then what can I change? At what point have I changed enough that this is no longer Wizard of the Coast's Curse of Strahd, but Ben's Curse of Strahd? Where does their authorship end and mine begin? Entire subreddits have sprung up around specific modules, and much of the content devotes itself to reimagining and improving existing adventures. Curse of Strahd in particular has a uniquely devoted community that's built an incredible trove of content that takes loose or incomplete threads within the adventure and breathes new life into them. Does the fact that communities are doing this mean that the modules themselves are inherently flawed? In most cases, no. Leonardo da Vinci once said, "Art is never finished, only abandoned." At a certain point, a creative has to sign their name and say, "That's good enough for me." And they should be proud of that achievement. But is it good enough for me? I'm just kidding. Kind of. The real question is this my version of the story? With DMing, sometimes you only discover the answer to that question when you're already halfway in. You look back and realize that you've left the safety rails far behind. That's an exhilarating feeling. But it comes with its own share of anxiety. Am I still running the campaign that the book promised, that I promised when I pitched this campaign? Am I going too far afield to deliver on the climax laid out by the book? More and more adventures released by Wizards of the Coast have been collections of self-contained locations and quests, rather than cohesive front-to-back experiences. It's assumed that you will take the reins and guide the party on your own adventures before looping back to some of the pre-made stuff later on in the books. While this design philosophy has gotten some negative feedback in the community and may not be right for every single module, I think the impulse to let the DM pick and choose what goes in their game is the right one. The writers know that even in a rigid campaign book, you're not going to listen to them. Come on, I know I won't. However, there is one thing I would warn you about. When you pitch your campaign and have session 0, one of the biggest topics should be expectations. Maybe you are the forever DM so your players are stuck with you, but you don't want to leave them disappointed with the game they thought they were going to be playing. With the Curse of Strahd example, I didn't just talk about minutia. I talked about tone. Curse of Strahd is notoriously grim, but it doesn't have to be. With the right table and the right DM, Barovia could turn into a Muppets show really quickly. And with the right table and the right DM, that might be the perfect fit. But if you came here looking for Bram Stoker's Dracula and I came back with Count Von Count, you would be well within your rights to look elsewhere for your gaming fix. If you set your expectations correctly at the start, then your players won't mind. In fact, they won't even notice when you've gone off book. You're still giving them the game they signed up for, still delivering on the promises you and the book made at the start. But now, this isn't Wizards of the Coast present Rime of the Frost Maiden. It's Rime of the Frost Maiden presented by you. My time in your game is going to be different than any other game using the same module, and that's not a bad thing. That is a great thing. It's what's so incredible about tabletop games, what's so incredible about human creativity as a whole. Whether your group comes together and says we're going to play Curse of Strahd, or comes together and says we're going to play Ben's campaign, may determine whether the ship of Theseus is still the ship it was at first. But what's important here is that the boat still floats, and that you and your friends are at the oars. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and share with your gaming group. My name is Ben DeHart, and if there's room on board, I've got dibs on the crow's nest. See ya.